friends! Welcome back to my channel! It's been a little while. Today we are going to talk about the world's favourite pastime, Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is a life simulator that originated on the GameCube. It has you move to an unknown town full of animal villagers, and the main aims are to befriend your neighbours, catch bugs, fish and fossils to fill up the local museum, and to pay off your loans to a very mischievous and shady tanuki called Tom Nook. I started playing Animal Crossing back in 2009 after proudly saving up all my birthday money, all my Christmas money and all my pocket money to pay for my first ever big gaming purchase, which at the time was the Nintendo Wii. Shortly after, to show how proud he was of my good work, my dad gifted me a copy of Animal Crossing Let's Go to the City, otherwise known as City Folk. After initially being very confused how to play the game, I very much fell in love. The villagers were very mean to begin with, but if you talked to them and got to know them more and more, they'd grow to love you and you definitely grow to love them. For example, the seamstress hedgehog at the local clothes store was very shy and standoffish when you first speak to her, but the more and more you spoke to her, the more she would tell you about her sister in the city who she missed dearly. And other characters have many stories and personalities like this. I remember in the game when I played it, most of my money would be to try and save up to buy one single designer top or bed in the designer store called Gracie Grace, and sometimes to even be able to afford one thing I would have to time travel, which we don't approve of, to Halloween and Easter so I could sell off the furniture from them just to pay for this item or to pay off my loan. I also remember very proudly when I finally achieved my second story in my house, which I think must have been the furthest I got because I was only about 9 or 10 at the time, and I announced it very publicly on Facebook, which don't know why I had Facebook, but story for another day. Every single day in this town felt different to me, and this was mostly because my animal friends would ask me to do different chores or play games or come round to my house or even solve spas. I logged hundreds of hours into this game at a time when only The Sims held my attention, so really I was not playing anything. Eventually I unfortunately ran out of time for my Wii, and especially after we finally got the beloved PS3 followed by our PS4. But I have a special place in my heart for Animal Crossing, and I had no way to play it. I certainly didn't get any other generation of Nintendo device. And that was until November 2017, where Nintendo launched Animal Crossing for mobile, which I know doesn't sound very exciting, but was incredibly exciting for me because it came out on my birthday and felt like a special gift from Nintendo to me. And so naturally I played this game every single second from it being added to my device for absolutely months on end. This wait would finally be ended by the release of what we now know as New Horizons, finally launching in 2020. The wait for this game is what got me through the first few months of 2020 and introduced me to an avid group of fans where I eventually met my best friends. Obviously there's been games in the series before the Animal Crossing games I have experienced, so my experience is solely based on Animal Crossing City Folk, Pocket Camp and New Horizons, though I have consulted my friends who have played other games like New Leaf and Wild World, and I believe these criticisms will hold for this game too. So why on earth am I claiming that this free mobile game is better than a £40 game for the main console? And if you like me, you bought this special console, so that could be as much as £400. Well, that's what this video is about. So let's jump into it. By the way, for those of you who don't know, I live in Scotland. It is very cold, so I have donned this jumper even though it makes my outfit a bit different. So, still a different day, I've just put a jumper on. So, Pocket Camp. I mean, I think it's very easy to initially believe that I have a bias towards Pocket Camp. Which, you know what? Yeah, I do. I freaking love this game. It was cool to have it come out for my birthday. It'll always mean the world to me. But that is not why I love it. Now, to start off, I really hate mobile games. I hate their ads, I hate that they're constantly trying to spend you money, will charge you money, and I just hate that they're not fun. Like, there are very few mobile games that I think are remotely fun in any capacity. However, Pocket Camp was never this for me. When Pocket Camp was launched back in 2017, it was incredibly bare bones compared to what it is now. You initially started with picking your camp and your camp's theme and one of 4 styles with an accompanying villager, which in this game are known as campers because you're doing a campsite. 4 aesthetics were cool, sporty, outdoorsy, and cute, which is the one I picked. You could then collect materials by doing different tasks from different villagers on different islands, which you would visit via the map in the game. This could be anything like catching specific fish they wanted, or bugs, or getting them fruit. And you would use these materials that you collected from these villagers to then craft different furniture for your island. So you could decorate your camp and make it look beautiful, but also you could make furniture to attract certain villagers. For example, Tangy might want all 5 items in the orange set, and Meringue might want an oven and a marshmallow sofa, and you would have to go get these materials to be able to do that for them, so that they could then stay at your campsite. Was this anything like City Folk? Of course not. But was it good for what it was, and did it help pass the time without an Animal Crossing game? Of course. Slowly they would introduce items that could only be purchased with leaf tickets. These were paid for with real money or could be collected during monthly events. In fact, they have started making it easier and easier and easier to collect leaf tickets, and I suspect this is because people were not buying them, and so it wasn't really working out. They seem to be funneling your money more into the helper system, which currently is irrelevant and useless, and I barely used it. I don't know anyone who does. But the items you initially bought with these leaf tickets were originally terrible, but have become increasingly better. They now include incredible items, such as costumes and clothes, and for the first time ever in the franchise, wigs, which never really existed before but are an incredibly welcome addition. I would love to see them. And these added to the franchise's previously very bland hairstyles, and anyone will tell you how bland they are. These wigs can include anything really, but some notable examples would be modern braided styles, textured ponytails, and my personal favourite, neon pink and purple space buns adorned with stars. But these are only a small selection of the vast variety Pocket Camp has to offer. On top of this, the furniture is the best we've seen to date, and not just the leaf ticket ones either. They keep all the old sets, such as Alpine, Cute, Regal, Rococo, all the beloved ones, and I admit they've not updated these for the Pocket Camp in comparison to New Horizons, but for people who love the old games, this is still a welcome addition. And on top of that, they've added many, many more. Of note, a recent set I found seemed to be an outdoor cinema set, which included a fire pit surrounded by pillows with little marshmallows on sticks, an outdoor full-size cinema screen, and ropes and ropes of fairy lights, globe fairy lights, which, I mean, what modern campsite doesn't need that? In fact, on top of this, if like me you chose the cute furniture set, which highly recommend, you were required to create this beautiful tree swing adorned with bunting and balloons that finally upgrades into a full-blown carousel, which, I mean, New Horizons would never write. I'll be the first to admit the gameplay can be repetitive. There is little to no skill involved in catching fish and bugs, and at this stage bells are worth almost nothing, as I regularly have as many as 3 million bells in my pocket at any one time. But what really makes this game are the monthly themed events. As I upload this video, I suspect that we will have started the Valentine's event, because we are very close. And every event starts with a flower event where you grow a new type of flower, which are all completely unique and beautifully designed, and have to catch whatever bug it attracts. This is always followed by a fishing tourney where you see the original chip, and it's then followed by a gyroid hunt, which, I mean, at least Pocket Camp has gyroids, am I right? This will net you a huge range of new furniture and clothes, and a unique cutscene memory if you complete the event. In some cases, like the Sanrio collab or even the New Horizons launch, you can even collect new villagers, which is how I met my absolute favourite villager, Itoll. So why do I mention all of this? I mean, it's not as if this free mobile game, even after being 4 years old, would have anywhere near the content a full paid Animal Crossing game would have, right? So I would really like to start this hit piece by pointing out that Nintendo have said that they started work on New Horizons after the launch of New Leaf in 2013, which means they've been working on this game for 7 years, which is a long time for any game production. The game was initially due to be launched in 2019, but due to it being unfinished and Nintendo not wanting to overwork their staff, it was launched in March of 2020. Who would know? Who would know that the pushback would be the best thing that ever happened to this game? Due to what some of us are referring to as the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Just 2020. Nintendo Switch New Horizons is the best-selling game in the franchise, with 26 million copies sold to date. It's the second best-selling game on the Nintendo Switch behind Mario Kart 8, and the 28th best-selling game of all time. All time! It's insane! It was used in protests and political campaigns, and for weddings and graduations, and it's still an incredibly big deal to a heck of a lot of people. In fact, now Switches are still selling out with people buying Animal Crossing. For me personally, Animal Crossing's New Horizons was the only way to meet my best friend who lives on the other side of the world. And you know what? This game started incredible. It initially had me hooked. Like, I played constantly for those first few days, and I think any other fan will tell you the same. But unfortunately, Animal Crossing's New Horizons is an unfinished game. That's right, I said it. And I'll say it again. Animal Crossing's New Horizons is an unfinished game. And it is incredibly obvious. To start, remember the main gameplay feature I mentioned at the start of this video? To make friends? Well, none of the animals have personality types anymore. Nintendo will tell you otherwise, and have divided them up into different categories, called Sisterly, Peppy, Normal, Jog, Grumpy, Snooty and Smug. All of this means nothing, and causes each group to have a set of 5 lines of dialogue or less that they can say, and if you have more than one of any of these personality types, which I guarantee you will, because you have to have 10 villagers at a time in your town, means that they will repeat themselves possibly several times in the same day. They used to have long strips of dialogue and unique relationships with certain villagers, which would prompt more unique dialogue. On top of this, they would have unique likes and dislikes, favourite drinks and foods, and even colours, all of which can be found on the Animal Crossing wiki right now. Hello! Sorry about that little change of setting because my camera ran out of battery and I forgot to charge it, so great start to this first video back. So the other thing about the villagers would be that they felt like fully fleshed out people that you were trying to get to know. For example, the grumpy personality is indicative of this, because they would start off as a really old mean man. If you really put in the time and effort, like I did with Apollo, they would start to accept you and even really like you, like, you know, how people work. Does Pocket Camp add any of this dialogue? I mean, no, but each of the villagers do have their own unique furniture sets, and furniture you have to make specifically for them so they'll stay with you, and even in the loading menu they add more things about their personalities and their characters, which is more than we get from any of the villagers in New Horizons, to be honest. This is the one specific element that should separate the mainline game from the mobile game, and yet it fails horrendously. But you know what? If it was just that, then maybe I'd forgive them. If it was only this one thing, then we could move on. But we are 1 year into New Horizons, and yet we are missing most of the NPCs known in all of the other games, some of which are even in Pocket Camp. For example, Brewster, which is the most popular NPC, who's in City Folk and ran the cafe in the basement, who was in City Folk and ran the cafe in the basement of the museum. In Pocket Camp, you can buy him with leaf tickets, and he can run a cafe in your camp, or in your log cabin. Shampoodle, the friendly hairdressing poodle, who would be perfect for selling the new wigs that they've introduced in Pocket Camp, was actually in Pocket Camp, and yet it's not in New Horizons. Katrina, the fortune-telling cat, has a booth in Pocket Camp and yet does not feature in New Horizons. Katie, the cat, and Digby, Isabel's beloved twin brother, both in Pocket Camp, not in New Horizons. And there are many, many more that I can name that are in Pocket Camp but not in New Horizons. Meanwhile, Gracie Grace, the beloved designer giraffe, who I spent so many hours trying to buy furniture off, seems to be being removed from the franchise altogether and doesn't appear in either game. To say this is frustrating to many long-term fans is beyond an understatement. Many of these are as much fan favourites as many of the villagers. Not to mention, the shops that we do have feel lackluster, especially with so little furniture and clothing items available in the game as a whole. New Horizons seems to have removed many of their popular furniture sets, such as Alpine, Rococo, Regal, Cool, and many, many more, and just haven't replaced them with anything. And after choosing to remove Gracie Grace from the game, leaves the player with very little left to spend their money on, even after they paid off their loan, which of course is now easier because what else do you have to spend your money on? It's even more frustrating when you see several collections of furniture and clothing being added to Pocket Camp every single month that are much better than any of the furniture items we see in New Horizons, and many of them won't even cost you leaf tickets. The reason I'm making this video is I don't even believe that these things will change. We recently had a new update for New Horizons, and we've been told that we will consistently get updates for 3 more years after the game's launch. But many of the things that they're putting in as updates should have been in the game from launch. The update this February brings us Festival, an event that I never got to experience in City Folk. But the event itself seems to play exactly the same way as 3 of the other events already present in New Horizons, such as Christmas, Maple, and the Sakura event, just reskinned, and it's incredibly disappointing. especially since it seems like every year we will get the same furniture for doing these events. At least in Pocket Camp it's different every time. I'm at the stage where I honestly have to force myself to play New Horizons, which you shouldn't have to do for an Animal Crossing game. I should be able to be in the first stage of a new year and still find things to enjoy, and at this point it's making me sad. Part of me still holds hope that the first year anniversary will get some massive update that will give us everything we want, but unfortunately at this stage it just seems unrealistic, and the future doesn't seem very peachy at all. Hello folks, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm hoping it will be the first of many this year. I really am hoping that this year I'm going to take you along on the adventure with me and really try and get back to this and hopefully bring you some new interesting stuff. I would really like to have a special shout out to my best friend Sam, who will be helping me edit this, and by helping probably will do all the work while I just boss her around. And so I really hope you liked this. If you're interested in more content like this in the future, please like the video and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.